Hi, my name is Dan Serafini with Ameritex Fabric Systems. Today we're going to spend time reviewing a typical installation for replacement bow cover canvas. The bow cover you would buy through Ameritex Direct will typically arrive to you without any of the snaps installed. This is done intentionally to make sure that there are no compatibility issues with the snaps in the canvas versus what's already pre-installed in the deck of the boat. And we're going to go through the process now of adding the snaps onto the canvas in a way to make sure that you get the best possible fit with your new replacement fabric. A typical bow cover installation is going to start on the windshield door. So in order to make this happen, what we need to do is open the door to the all the way open position, and then we need to determine what the center point is on that door to make sure that we've got our bow cover centered on the boat. So we'll just measure across the bottom of the doorway, and then at the midpoint put a small mark, just a reference point on there using a China marker or a grease pencil, so that we know theoretically what the center of the boat is in relation to the windshield. At that point, we're going to bring our new fabric into play. And for this, we need to think in terms of where we want the fabric laid out as far as the top side of the fabric, but then it needs to be inverted since the door is open. And with that inverted, we will stretch across. We can actually, on this particular cover, use the center line, the stitched center line of the fabric as our center point that will marry up to the mark we put on the windshield. If for some reason you're dealing with a bow cover that does not have a center stitch line on it, you can very, very easily just fold the cover in half and kind of pinch it along, and then add another small reference point at what will be your center point. Now for today's installation, we're using a heavy-duty press and snap installation tool. These are available through the Ameritex Direct website. There are different types and kinds of snap tools available, but this press and snap is what we're using today. We're going to go ahead and just add our cap and socket onto the tool, and then we're going to just put our first snap right on center. Now, we need to make sure that the snap is oriented so that the actual female portion is going to be on what is now the bottom side of the fabric. And we're going to go ahead and add this into position right on the fabric in line with that reference point that we made. Now when we add it onto the fabric, we want to make sure that it's all the way up above that edging material that's on the outside edge of the fabric, so that it's not creeping down too low past the end of the material. And with that done, we can simply snap it onto place on the windshield extrusion. With the center done, we'll begin walking out one side at a time. And as we move out to the side, we're going to put some sideways tension on this, and we will add a mark right in line with the first snap on the windshield door. As we mark them, we will go ahead and add those snaps in. We want to make sure that we're doing this one snap at a time and not marking a bunch and then coming back after the fact and adding snaps later. But we'll put this in just as we did with the first one, right on line with the yellow mark we put and above the edging material. So with the first side done, now we add tension to the outside edge here, mark our other snap, and add this one in the exact same way. So now with the windshield door fully installed, we can simply snap it into place and open the or close the windshield rather. And once we have it closed, we will want to lock the bottom windshield lock to make sure that as we continue now adding pressure forward with the rest of the installation, we don't have the door trying to open itself. So as we work the canvas to the front, we're going to have to line these up with the fasteners that are in the fiberglass on the front edge of the boat. Now, typically you can use a cleat as a reference point, or you can measure for what the center is, but it's a little bit difficult getting measurements in this type of an area. But what we will want to do is make sure that as we're positioning this, that we're centering it in a way that allows both sides of the fabric to engage the snaps. So with that done, we'll go ahead and add a reference mark onto the fabric. and we'll add that first snap on the forward portion of the bow cover. And again, as we discussed with the back, when we're adding the snaps, we want to put it in line with our reference mark, but we also want to just put it in just far enough onto the fabric to where we're coming in above the edging material and making sure that we have a nice tight crimp and our tool is properly adjusted. And when I say that, you want to make sure that you test your crimp and see if you can spin the snap on there. If you're not able to spin it by hand easily, that means your snap is nice and tight and you really don't have to worry about it pulling off quickly. But we've got the first one on, and then we will stretch forward and just get it engaged over the first fastener. We now want to make sure that we're completing the installation for the entire front edge. So we're going to start one side at a time and begin working our way out away from center. So here we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the door. We'll add tension towards the front of the boat, and we're also going to add a little bit of sideways tension here, a little bit of pull to the side, and we will mark our first snap. And with this, you should be able to feel the snap through the fabric. And you want to add your yellow dot or your dot right onto the center of that underside snap. And then we will go ahead and add it into the fabric. Then we engage onto the boat and we work out to the next one using the same process. Forward and outward pressure. We add our locator, and then we'll go ahead and add our snap into that spot. Once you have one side completed and snapped into place and secured on the front of the boat, then we will simply repeat the process on the second side. And here again, I need to reinforce that we are marking and adding one snap at a time and not getting too far out ahead of ourselves. At this point, we have the bow cover installed to the bottom side of the windshield, pulled forward and installed our entire lead edge of the bow cover, giving us nice front to back coverage. Before we start working our way around down the sides though, we want to make sure that we're coming back to the rear corners and stretching out to the corner and installing fasteners here to make sure that we have nice pull in, like a 45-degree angle, and that we're not going to run into any installation issues later down through this process. So with the fasteners on the corner, I'm going to start by pulling to the side and making sure again that I have material to catch both of my corner snaps. And I will simply start with one, mark it, and install right on that point. Then snap that into place, and then add the second corner snap out here, making sure that again I've got good tension sideways and to the back, so that the rest of my snaps at this point should really just fall nicely into place and leaving me with good tension from all directions on my bow cover. Once that's been secured into place, the same process is repeated on the opposite side. With our corners installed, we now have all of our primary points on the cover locked down and in the correct position. So I've already started the process of now moving down the first side and just adding one snap at a time. And we want to make sure that we are doing just one snap at a time, but we're pulling out to the edge, marking, and then adding our snap at that point. And then once we have that locked down and pulled, fastened onto the snap, we can come down and just keep working our way out and around the cover. Once I have the first side done, obviously this entire process now carries over onto the second side, marking and adding one snap at a time. Now with the perimeter snaps added, your bow cover installation is complete. The final step to any installation is to add the tent pole into the bottom to make sure that you're getting lift on the cover and proper water runoff. Every cover that you get from Ameritex Direct will have all the necessary mounting hardware, caps, sockets, and brand new tent poles. Each one of the tent poles provided will have a quick release lever for easy adjustment and length adjustment. So from the underside, you simply insert it up into the holder and telescope up, adding reasonable tension to get the lift desired to allow water to easily run off the cover. Our tent pole has been installed and our bow cover installation is now complete. Your replacement canvas through Ameritex Direct will protect your boat for years to come.